Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank. We come to you virtually from Seattle and the rainy today Pacific Northwest. If you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, this right here is the podcast for you. We call it the podcast of record. It's where street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dan Whedon, and my co-host today is the incomparable Michelle Baumberger. Our guest today is Amy Eklund. Amy started AmyWorks in 2010 after realizing there was a niche and a need for women in the residential home repair and remodeling field. Amy currently is co-chair of the Technical Advisory Committee for the Wood Tech Center associated with Seattle Central College. Amy also holds workshops for homeowners to teach repair skills. I know I could probably use that. And Amy's latest adventure is co-hosting a podcast, Let's Talk Home Repair. Amy's greatest joy in business is helping the client realize their remodeling dreams and supporting them in maintaining their biggest investment, their home. We can't wait to learn more. Welcome, Amy. We'll be right with you. Everyone, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts: iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube. Michelle, what do they say about us?
We are ubiquitous.
That's right. We come to you from about a dozen cities and growing: Atlanta, Boston, Boca Raton, Charleston, and many more. Now, before we bring on Amy, hello there, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good, Dan. It's nice to have a little bit of fall weather here in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, the fall weather came. Last week, I played golf on a Monday, and it was 74 degrees out, and it was October the 16th. The fall weather is definitely hit, and I'm pumped because it's Halloween, I like to say it. So happy Halloween. What is the Baumberger clan doing for Halloween?
Well, Mr. Baumberger really enjoys Halloween decorations. And so we have for many, many years had a, full-blown scene of skeletons doing something different each year. We've done weddings, we've done operating rooms, we've done a walk in the park with lights and fog and the whole works. And as you may remember, we moved in 2020 and we're now kind of at the end of this darker cul-de-sac and no one sees it anymore. And so we're trying to figure out how to balance our excitement for Halloween with being on the corner of a dark, less trafficked cul-de-sac.
You might have to set out some sort of signage of some sort that that lures people there. Well, what you may or may not know, Michelle, is that at the current moment and during Halloween, Barb and I will have our 4 grandchildren, and this is a clump of ages at 5, 3.5, and then the twins at 3.5 months old. They don't care much about Halloween, but I guarantee you the 5-year-old and 3-year-old do. We've been walking around the neighborhood. One of the neighbors has like that, I don't know, 15-foot tall skeleton. I don't know if your husband has that right now, but he's got that, and they call him Mr. Bones. And so they've got that. And I'm going to bring Amy into this because as I go around, Amy, and I see all these houses, I think some of these people actually may have done some specific remodeling for Halloween, or they're going to have to remodel after the fact. First of all, welcome. Second of all, what are you doing for Halloween, if anything? And tell us a little bit about your business where you've got a great home repair and home remodeling business.
Well, thank you, Dan and Michelle. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. What am I doing for Halloween? I'm really not doing anything. I think I'm going to be one of those that turns off my front porch and just kind of hides. My kids are grown and gone, so I don't have that motivation to do anything celebratory.
You might need to build some sort of a path, some signage and a path, a spooky thing that will lead people to Michelle's house. Maybe that's what your next
oh, there project. We go. Right. I can help her out with that. Yeah.
Well, speaking of projects, what do you help people out with?
We're focusing mainly on kitchen and bathroom remodels, basement remodels. We've done an ADU or DADU, several of those. just working on the remodel part of it. I started the business as a handy person services business, handyman services, kind of shifted out of that several years ago, and got more into the remodeling part of it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that really struck me when I first met you, Amy, was this niche that you found, this idea of women in the construction business, but also your customers being kind of often women at home. Can you talk a little about how you found that niche and kind of how that has maybe supported your business and growth?
Well, find out that who's the person that usually makes that appointment to get, the sink unclogged or the drywall repaired. It's usually the wife or the woman of the household. The guy's just like, oh, you handle it. And so we end up dealing typically with the wife or single women homeowners. And there's just that kind of automatic trust between women. We walk in and there's just a comfort kind of thing. They've had bad experiences going to Home Depot, trying to find tools or materials or something, and they're mansplained to. And so there's just that comfort, that instant trust that we have. And then there are people that I will talk to and they say, I want to support women-owned businesses, and that's why I'm wanting to work with you. We're not the cheapest in town, but they want to support women-owned businesses, and we're there to foot that bill.
Amy, I'm sitting here, at least in my head, chuckling a little bit, because in my house, it's not that way. It's the other way around. My wife, Barb, learned a lot of handy things from her dad, just like it sounds like from your biography, you did as well. And she likes doing that, and she likes trying to fix things. And I'm like, no, this is no good. It's gonna be worse. Let's hire somebody. Let's go find Amy. So it's just funny that's the case in our household. But I digress. It's interesting what you talk about, and the need just for homeowners, the need for what exactly you do, and the evolution of the handyman, handy person, handy woman, all of that the evolution of that. Talk about the challenges in marketing, because I've got to think there's a number of people out there who are trying to do the same thing in the same field. How have you found marketing yourself moving forward in our digital age? What kind of challenges and what kind of successes have you had with that?
Well, I started out when it was just me and my tools and my Subaru. The first thing that I did was I joined a networking group to get my name out there and I believe that's how I met you, Michelle, was somebody in my networking group. Just to get my name out there to local business owners. And so that was a huge thing. I was able to get an article or two in like the West Seattle Herald or Journal or whatever that newspaper was. And it took off. It really took off. And now we're doing, of course, having to do the social media. I have a website. Sporadically do a newsletter. I need to be more consistent with that. So it's definitely the social media. We were in when Angie's List was huge. It was a big thing. We were Angie's List Super Service Award winners multiple years in a row, so we could tout that as well. And just, whatever avenue I could, I didn't spend a lot of money on marketing because I just didn't have it. So I would use any avenue I could that was either free or really inexpensive.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something earlier that was really striking to me, and that was sort of a shift from, maybe handy person services to more remodeling. Can you kind of describe a little about what the difference is there in your business and why making that shift mattered?
The reason I did the shift was because there is a huge need for skilled labor in the trades right now, and there has been for a number of years. And when the economy was good, well, better than it is today, but this was 2016, 2017, finding people that are able to do a little bit of everything is really difficult. It's hard to find somebody that can go in and install a door, and then they can do drywall repair, or they can, hang a light fixture, or, just a little bit of everything. And it's really difficult to find that and to have the quality that I want. I don't want to have a call from a client saying this needs to be redone. So it was, my frustration level just got to the point where it's like it wasn't making sense. I wasn't making the kind of money that I could have. So I decided that I could go do this and work for somebody else. So I actually took a little hiatus, about 5 months, where I went and I worked for a friend of mine who is a general contractor, as a project manager and so I did that for 5 months. He got kind of slow and cash strapped. And I told him, I said, look, if you need to lay me off, go ahead. So he did. And my license was still good. My insurance was still valid, and decided to actually do that shift to remodeling. And they're two different business models. Absolutely. So it's like I had one business for 7 years, and now I've had this other business for 6 years. And the scheduling is different. The type of people you hire is different. Working with subcontractors, all that kind of stuff it's a little bit different, and your cash flow is different. So it was kind of a learning curve on that, but we're doing pretty good.
Well, I would say as a consumer, the ability to find somebody to do those small jobs it's almost impossible. Like, it is so difficult to just have like that one little thing that needs to be done. People are just so busy. It's really challenging.
It is. And there are times that I'd like to throw my tools into my truck and say, okay, I'll go do it, because I love doing it. I really, really do. Yeah.
Well, what we love doing, and we do have to pay the bills, Amy. We're going to take a quick commercial break to do that, to hear from today's Spotlight sponsor. And when we come back with our guest, Amy Eklund, for our Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to find out what Amy thinks about DIY projects. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. The power of law is often used against those who don't know what they don't know. But not anymore. Equinox levels the field for entrepreneurs. Just as your business now may tap into a managed service provider for accounting, HR, or IT help, you can now tap into the power of law with Equinox. Equinox's strategic legal counsel service gives your business the same strategic law advantages as the megacorps. But unlike the mega attorneys, Equinox brings a balance of strategic business and practical legal guidance. You set the priorities and the budget. The Equinox team builds a personalized plan at a fixed monthly cost to best serve your legal priorities and needs. Take on business complexities with the power of law on your team. Visit equinoxbusinesslaw.com. Schedule a complimentary, no obligation evaluation to see where your business stands. Level the playing field with Equinox Strategic Legal Counsel. And before we go back to the show, Michelle, I do want to say that I have been watching your recent burst of YouTube updates. You have a very nice YouTube channel. You talk about really important things. So I just wanted to say, I'm watching.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. It's been fun to put those together.
And
Let's
this is
get
the
back
part
to
where
the
you
show.
go. I completely threw you off of our script. I apologize.
You are good. You are good. We are coming back to the Shrimp Tank here with our guest, Amy Eklund of AmyWorks. This is where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. So Dan, let's kick off Hot or Not.
So Amy, I know you've listened to the show. Hot or Not is where Michelle and I are going to pepper you with questions about business, about life, probably a little bit about home repair and projects like that. I know that one of the shows I enjoyed watching, Barb and I would watch these a lot, are all of the home improvement shows. Now, I had zero interest in doing any of the work. Barb was very excited about it. It was like, no, I don't want to do that. I like watching, but I don't want to do any of that. But a lot of people do. So hot or not, Amy, DIY projects.
For myself or other people doing
Oh,
it?
for other people, for the non-skilled of us out there, what do you think about our DIY projects, hot or not?
It's both, because we run into situations where, somebody's a DIYer and they've done this work and we end up spending twice as much time fixing it. But then I also teach workshops to empower people to do that kind of stuff as well, because it's not rocket science.
Well, and just as a follow-up, I noticed on a reason I wanted to ask this question is I was on your YouTube channel, which people should go and find, and you have some really good videos about that. So my guess is that, some of what I would call the smaller stuff, people can learn how to do, and they can go take your class or watch your video, but maybe the more complicated things, they should call you on, right?
Yes, like room additions or things like that.
Right.
Like, oh, we can do that.
Demolition, maybe even too.
Right.
Is that a load bearing wall?
Right. What I love hearing is, oh, it shouldn't take more than a couple of hours to do that. It's like, okay.
All right, well, hot or not, in-person group trainings.
I love doing them. I
Are you
think
are you seeing traction on those right now? I know that as we've kind of shifted, like, let's do more online versus more in person. Are you doing a mix of those now, or what are you seeing?
I haven't done any since COVID started, but I do have some people that are interested. Somebody actually contacted me and they've got a group of friends that want to get together and do it. So I just need to take the time. Finding the space is what my issue is right now. Just finding a space big enough where we can have the tools and do it. But
as a non-technical person, for me, the ability to do the hands-on with someone who knows what they're doing is definitely better than watching it on YouTube. As much as the millennials say that they can learn anything on YouTube,
Right.
I am not a millennial and I cannot learn anything.
Yeah.
By the way, Michelle, what I learned to do on YouTube was to be able to figure out when my key fob to my car the battery died and I couldn't get into my car. I did open up YouTube and figured out how to actually open up the fob and get the spare key. So some of it works occasionally, at least for people like me. Amy, hot or not, podcasts.
Love it. I love doing this one. I have my own that I'm doing. Let's Talk Home Repair.
Yes, that was a loaded hot or not, because I do want you to talk about home repair, and I want you to tell us a little bit about your podcast and what your whole goal with it is for your listeners.
Okay. So I do this podcast with my friend Alicia. We are co-hosts, and I'm the general contractor and she's the homeowner. We love to banter back and forth. Alicia is very opinionated and she will tell us exactly how it is. And she's pretty knowledgeable about home stuff, and she's done her own stuff. She's done, she's hired contractors to do other work. So we have a really good back and forth that we do. And we try to talk about, tools. We talk about repair. We talk about maintenance. We've had guests on that are from, an HVAC company, or we've had a designer on. We've had a number of different guests. And so it's just, we were told at one time, we did a live recording at the home show. And somebody said to us after that, they said, you guys are like the car talk of home repair. And that was such a great compliment.
So what are you seeing as the most traction as far as the podcast and where people's interests are?
Tricky things like I had a video that somebody sent to me on a faucet that was in a fancy bathroom, and it was like the water was coming out of the wall, and she wanted to know, how does that work? And so I actually had to do a little bit of, YouTube or research on it. It's like, look at the actual components and things like that. We've had, wanting references to stuff that we talk about, just really inquisitive about, what we're talking about, just wanting more information.
Just deviating from hot or not for a second, Amy, you obviously were in business in March 2020 when the entire world shut down and changed and everything went crazy, and every individual business owner had to take a look at their own business and start pivoting. That was the key word for about 2 years, was what are we going to do to pivot? Your business is about going places. It wasn't it wasn't you couldn't become more digital. Oh, maybe you could, maybe you'll share that, but your business was going out to people's homes and meeting with them face to face. Talk about that time and how your business evolved out of that.
We were pretty fortunate. We had a couple of really big whole house remodels that were going on at the time that were in vacant houses. So we were able to just shut those down, and we were shut down for 6 weeks because we were considered non-essential. So I continued to take phone calls and do client screening during that time and set up appointments after we got, let back out into the streets. So we shut down for 6 weeks. There was the, subsidies that we got. I took advantage of the PPP loans and things like that were able to help cover those costs during that 6 weeks. And after the 6 weeks, we had, criteria that was set up that the state was requiring. We had to have, a wash station. We had to have a check-in. We had to have temperature checks. There was all this stuff that we had to do. So, that cost a little bit of money, cost a little bit of time. But we went ahead and we did that, and we were able to just ramp back up again. And actually, that was the best year we had thus far.
Wow.
Was 2020. So we were really fortunate.
Quick follow-up on that. I wasn't expecting necessarily to hear that, but I'm guessing now in retrospect, I'm not surprised, because it feels like during the pandemic, people were staying home. They were probably looking at their homes saying, okay, we may not be moving for a while. We may not be able to move for a while. We've had all of these things that we've been putting off. Did you find that to be part of it? It was like, okay, we've been living in our house now. This bathroom's terrible. We need the addition over here. It all of a sudden came to fruition. Is that what happened?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. There were, it's like, I can't stand this bathroom anymore. I've been looking at it for 10 years and I have to go in there, every 2 hours. I want something done with it. People had more money because they weren't traveling. They weren't eating out.
Right.
That kind of stuff as well. So yeah, people just started, it's like, I need an extra space here. I need to convert the basement into, a den. I need my kids to have a separate space, those kind of things.
Well, that's definitely what triggered our move during COVID. So very similar situation. That actually leads me to what my next hot or not was, and that is outdoor living spaces. Did you guys see any shift toward outdoor living spaces versus indoor living spaces and building those out?
We didn't really. I did personally. I took and covered my huge, 12 by 20 deck with, a roof, and got a solo stove, and so that we could be outside, and strung some lights. But we weren't involved too much in any outdoor renovations.
Interesting.
So I have a question. It's actually going to go back to the first one I asked on hot or not, and that's do it yourself. If you were to answer the question, I guess I'll ask it this way. I'm assuming that everybody should have a certain type of tool chest, that you have to have a hammer, you have to have a screwdriver. Okay. What are some of the things that people may not automatically think about, like the hammer or the screwdriver, things like that, that really becomes handy in a house, in an emergency or in some situation? Are there a list of a few different tools that every house should have just in case?
Oh, absolutely. I actually did a thing on I think it was King 5, about your toolbox that you should have. Things that I like to see are a multi-bit screwdriver. So you only have to one screwdriver. You've got multi-bits, right? It's got the Phillips head, it's got the flat head, it's got the square bit. One tool covers a whole bunch of different things. Also, another thing that I really like is a utility knife. So you've got the blade, utility knife that doesn't take a screwdriver to open it up and change the blade. That's huge. Impact driver is a huge thing for me. And an impact driver is similar to a drill, but when you're using it for screwing in screws, it won't strip the screw out, which is a huge complaint from people, is when they're putting screws in with a drill, that it strips the screws out. But if you're using an impact driver instead, you don't have that problem. Then there is, yes, the hammer, pry bar. One thing that I suggest everybody has is something called a Zip-It, which is a plastic strip that's got some barbs on it that is actually used to put down a sink, and it grabs the hair and you pull it out. And so you're not having to take everything apart, but it works so well. And it's, $2.59 at the store. You use it, you can throw it away, or you can buy it, or you can, stick it underneath your sink, whatever. But it is a really great tool, especially if you've got, people with long hair that's going down the bathroom sink.
Well, that's my Christmas stocking stuffer list for the husband. So thank you for that.
Well, it's mine for Barb. She's not listening right now, so I think it's going to be mine for Barb.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Excellent. Check that one off the list. I appreciate that. So as you were talking about kind of trends and remodels, what would you say are the hottest things in remodeling right now?
Oh, heated floors. People like heated floors, and I think they're more interested in heated floors during the winter than if we're doing a walkthrough or putting a job together in the summer. They're like, yeah, we don't need a heated floor. Quartz countertops, because of the low maintenance on them, as opposed to natural stone, marble, or granite. Floating vanities that are attached to the wall, so that it's not sitting on the floor, so you can actually like sweep underneath it. Those are pretty huge. And tile, of course, the tile is timeless. It can be dated, however, but the pink and the burgundy and the lime green, but yeah, tile is always a hit.
I would think lime green would be big here with the Seahawks, but I don't know. Maybe not so much. So listen, what is timeless as well is making sure that we acknowledge our sponsors. So we're going to take a short break to hear from those sponsors. And when we come back with our guest, Amy Eklund, for our famous Plead the Fifth section of the show, we are going, and I'm going to give Amy some chance to think about this. We're going to ask her about the craziest, most unique, out-of-the-box remodel she's ever done. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. And Plead the Fifth is brought to you by our corporate sponsors: Ideal Life 360, Cornerstone Financial, First Underwriters Insurance, the Kitsap Sun Newspaper Group, BC Fitness Studio, and Upstart Group. Please visit our website at www.shrimptankpodcast.com Seattle. And by the way, it's brand new and it looks fantastic. So please go there to learn more about these terrific companies. Now back to the show.
Well, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. I'm Michelle Bomberger, here with my co-host, Dan Whedon, and with Amy Eklund of AmyWorks, our guest for today. Dan, you want to kick off our Plead the Fifth segment?
Yes, and I'm going to have to tell you right off the bat, Amy, that you cannot look to Michelle and ask if you're pleading the fifth, because she's on the other side now, and you're going to have to answer questions from her. So you get to plead the fifth once, but only once. We actually had somebody recently have to plead the fifth on something, so be careful. All right, we're going to have some fun with it, though. I mentioned, I gave you a little bit of time just over the commercial break to think about it. I've got to believe that you've either done or maybe at least been asked to do something really out of the box, crazy, where you're looking at that saying, A, I don't know if we can do this. B, this is unbelievable. You know, what's that one crazy, what's the craziest remodel you've ever done?
So this was actually when I had the handyman services business, but I had a woman who had bought a townhome in Sammamish Plateau, and she wanted me to install these floating beds. And what they were was an 8-foot in diameter ring that had webbing like a hammock. And it had 32 lines that came up to a carabiner that hung from the ceiling. And so I had to be able to, and she wanted 2 of them. She wanted one in her bedroom and one in her living room. And so I had to structurally make sure that whatever I was attaching it to could hold 2,000 pounds.
Wow.
So I ended up having to bring in a 12-foot steel square beam, and we had to come through the window because the stairway was such that we couldn't get it in. And so I had to incorporate, or I had to ask friends to help me, because at that time it was just me and my van and my tools. So I had to have the brackets fabricated that would go onto the walls. I had to bring this beam up that went up there. That was the one for the living room. She didn't want it attached to the floor, which it was, recommended because you get that thing swinging. It was close to windows, and she had 2 young kids. And so I just kind of shook my head. The one in the bedroom, I had to go up into the roof, and I had to do some structural beefing up of the trusses. I had to put an angle iron through there, do the same thing, a huge long eye bolt that went through it. And I got it done. It was great. And about 6 months later, I saw her somewhere, and she asked me if I could come and take them down.
No.
She did. She did. She was just like, yeah, they're not working. They're not working. Well, you figured she's like 8 feet, this big, huge steel ring in your living room, and you've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. It's like, oh, that's a good time right there. Yeah.
Hey, I know the 3 and the 5-year-old, they're not my kids, they're my grandkids, but I can even imagine that. But what an ordeal.
Right. Like a merry-go-round in your living room.
Exactly. That was the most unusual.
Amy, can you share with us who has been the most influential in your career journey and why?
Oh, who has been the most influential? I have a colleague that started his business about the same time I did. He went right into remodeling, whereas I started on the handyman path. And he has been a great resource for me throughout the 13 years that I've been in business. And then all of the various classes and workshops that I've taken around the city have just been incredibly helpful.
So I'm going to play a little game with you on this next one, Amy. It's called You Can Only Do One.
Uh-oh.
You can only do one of these for the rest of your business life. You can either do a kitchen remodel, or you can do all bathroom remodels. So that's it. You can either a kitchen or bathroom. Which one would you choose and why?
Probably a kitchen remodel.
Okay.
I like you spend so much time in your kitchen. You spend a lot of time in your bathroom too, but it's out of necessity, right? You spend time in your kitchen, your friends spend time in your kitchen. And, if you love to cook, just having it laid out so that it works really well for you. And just that transformation from old tired to, brand new and new appliances, new counters. Yeah, I love the transformation with kitchen remodel.
I like it.
The kitchen being just sort of that center of entertainment, that center of social, that center of the house. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that too. So taking your business sort of out of the picture, and if you could build any other business around a hobby, what would that business look like?
Oh, build it around a hobby. I would love to make guitars.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that answer always surprises us. It's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you play?
I do. Well, kind of. Yeah. I own a number of guitars. I actually have my cousin's husband actually makes guitars back in Pennsylvania, and he shows these amazing things that he's working on. And I just think it would be great. It would be a lot of fun. Just absolutely beautiful pieces of artwork. Yeah.
That's very cool. I like that. Where did my, oh, there it is. I knew I had my question next to me and I lost it for a second. I got so engrossed in your answer. I've known a lot of people in the construction business, whether they are new home construction or folks that are doing repair and remodel like you. What would you say you like most and what you like least about the current state of your industry in construction? What do you like most? What do you like least?
I love the fact that there's a lot of work out there. There's not a lot of marketing that's required right now currently. The thing I like the least is the lack of skilled workforce. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, that's probably been a problem for a lot of people, but it is in yours for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
So what is your reaction to the word impossible?
I got to try first, and then I'll tell you if it's impossible.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us today on the Shrimp Tank. It has been such a great chance to get to know you a little bit better. So for our listeners that want to get in touch with you or learn more about AmyWorks, how can they get more information?
They can go to our website at amyworks.com. They can call the office at 206-478-2019. Check out our podcast, Let's Talk Home Repair. We've got Facebook page, Instagram. We're out there on social media.
Great. And for all of our listeners, make sure you check out all the replays on our social media pages and through shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, our social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Well, Amy, thank you for joining us today. I had a wonderful time learning about your business and getting to know you better. It was really a pleasure. Thank you very much. Michelle, as always, great to see you. We'll see you again closer to Thanksgiving. I think we're going to meet again right before Thanksgiving. So we've got this Halloween Thanksgiving thing going. So have a great Halloween to both of you. Everybody, do what Michelle says. Go to our Facebook page, like us, because that's where we live stream every Wednesday. Our next show will be November 2nd. It's, of course, at 12 p.m. Pacific. Our guest is going to be Melina Palmer. Melina she knows a lot about the brain. She is, and I forget the exact verbiage, but she's a brainy person. She has a brainy business podcast, and we're going to learn how our brains work in business. You're not going to want to miss that. My co-host will be Craig Swanson. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and be prosperous. And if you need a remodel, give Amy a call, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.